Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I do hope you are well. I am. We might have a little bit of an issue with light today, it's just gone again. I'm about to get on with one of my favourite jobs of the year, but it's supposed to be quite a gloomy, wet day today, and I thought it was perfect. I know I'll bring the table into the window, make the most of what light there is, but also make the most of any warmth that the light coming through the window generates. I've had to come back from the window because it was too bright, the camera couldn't cope. And now the sun's gone in, never mind. Yay, today I am going to start filling the lovely lavender bags. Oh, what a joy, what a joy. I love this job, partly because it means they're nearly there, they're nearly done. Everybody, you get a generous, look, you know what, no matter how carefully I do it, every now and again there's still a head with its twig attached into the bin. Yeah, you get a generous whole 100 grams of gorgeous organic lavender. Just to say as well, I'm really sorry about this. I've explained it to quite a few people in messages already. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that folk have been messaging me to say they'd like to order, they want 4, they want 6. Can I take their order now? They want green ones or pink ones. I don't ever take pre-orders. I'm really, really sorry. It's just that last year, the way it went, I ended up, people wanted more in pre-orders than I could make, than I had lavender for. So yeah, sorry, I don't take pre-orders. They will go on sale. I will make an announcement. I'll try to remember to put it on the community bit of YouTube for the folk who aren't on Facebook. I will give advance warning, and they'll go on sale on a weekend day, either a Saturday or Sunday. Not sure which yet, depends when they get finished. So they'll go on sale on a weekend day when the majority of people aren't at work. Yes, I know some folk will still be at work. I used to work Saturdays and Sundays. And then they'll be going on sale at 6 p.m. UK time, which kind of straddles for the majority of the majority of you. So my European friends, you know, it'll be your evening. For friends in North America, it'll be your morning, lunchtime. I'm trying to make it fair. If I had a whole allotment that was just lavender, then I could hopefully keep everybody happy. I've just realised, because I've got all the processed lavender ends up in these paper bags, and then they go into I have all these kind of craft crates, so that all that perfume is kept whilst I'm waiting to do the makes. But I need somewhere to put these that are pinned. Hang on a sec, I should have. It's always about ergonomics, isn't it? But I think because this is something I only do once a year, because there's only one harvest. Sorry, rattle, rattle. Oh! Remember I was saying I haven't made any bunting last year? Well, I did do a little bit because a woman locally, fairly local to me, she bought some of my bunting 2 years previously. And friends of hers had admired it, so she got in touch with me last year. It was a bit of a punt, actually. I'm digressing already. It's not something I'd done before, but a couple of years ago, or was it even in lockdown? It might have been 2020. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was in lockdown. My YouTube revenue went through the floor. I mean, it didn't even... It got to the stage where there were some months during lockdown when, you know, I was putting out 4, 5, 6 videos a week. There were sometimes I was doing daily videos, and even so, the revenue was just through the floor. I couldn't even pay my bills, so I got doing a load of sewing, and I mentioned my wares in the local Facebook groups, and I got a few nibbles. Great. Anyway, so one of those women had come back to me last year to say friends of hers had admired the bunting in her garden. Did I have any for sale? She wanted to buy some as gifts. I said, no, I don't have any made. Sorry. I could possibly make a string for you, because, don't ever want to turn work down. What sort of colourways, Anyway, she wanted sort of pinks and reds similar to the ones she'd bought. So in the end, I made up 3 strings. Didn't know which she liked. She bought 2. So they've been sitting there. So yay! the bunting stock has started. I completely forgot about that. Oh, that's nice. One less to make. Right, the reason I've done that is so that I can put my pinned ones in there, and then they'll all be just with a little whip stitch along the seam. They'll all be hand finished. The reason I like to hand finish them is, well, partly because I love hand sewing, but also that means that, in 4 or 5 years' time, as the scent wears off, you can literally, with a little pair of scissors, just snip the end of the thread, pull it, open the seam, empty it, refill it, do your own little whip stitch along the bottom. Yeah, you'll be able to open it, empty, refill without damaging the fabric. Whereas if I machine sewed it, also a machine stitch on the edge, it just looks messy and it's just ugly. If I'm going to see stitches, I'd rather see little hand stitches than little machine stitches. Yay! Like I say, it's such a happy job because the smell, apart from anything, the smell is just heavenly. And of course, I can't help but, in my mind, picture the garden, picture summer, picture those lovely sessions, because it takes quite a while. Also, obviously, I do Gary's harvest for him. He can't stand pruning his lavender plants, so as far as he's concerned, me pruning by way of harvesting, he's delighted, and of course my payment for that is his blooms. So yeah, it takes a while, but yeah, it's a job that I never hurry because it's a summer job. I love being out in the garden in summer. I think that's one of the things about winter, isn't it, that gets to me, is I'm just not an indoors person. It's funny, I always say I'm outdoorsy, but then people get the wrong idea. I'm not outdoorsy as in I don't want to be schlepping up fells and down fells. I don't want to be schlepping anywhere. I just want to be out. I want to be out and sitting and hearing and smelling and feeling sunshine on the back of neck. Oh, do you remember what sunshine felt like? So yeah, it's a lovely job because of those memories that just comes to. I'm thinking of summer. But also it's a lovely job because of the fabrics. I mean, I'm so grateful for my work because it's an absolute joy and a pleasure. It does get to the stage where I think, oh, come on, get them finished already. But the first step of getting them made is putting the fabrics together. And that's the bit that I just love it. It's a bit of a kind of a messy, not messy process. I can spend all day doing it, literally all day. And because I've got so many different fabrics, so many different choices, what I tend to do is get a bed sheet, big, like king size, clean white bed sheet, and spread it on the floor and start putting fabrics next to each other, combinations. Oh, you know, I'll find two that I think work beautifully together, and then I'll bring a third in. I go, oh no, not quite. What am I going to put with them? Even though they work perfectly together, I can't make anything else work with them, so I might have to separate them and put them somewhere else, and on and on and on it goes all day. But it's a fab job. I love it. Whack the radio on, whack some music on, and then hopefully before bedtime I've got my choices, my combinations all sorted, all laid out, and then all I have to do is cut them. The cutting takes ages too, but yeah, the whole process, it's done slowly, it's done with love, it's done with joy. And so I hope when you get a lavender bag from me, you get a feeling of all of that. I haven't ever quite worked out. Yeah, I was talking about the ergonomics in terms of having the crate there to put these stuffed ones into, where to have the bowl, where to have things on the table. I was the other way round just before I turned the camera on, and I went to kind of do the motions. I was like, no, that's not right. Anyway, this is the right layout for me. So, goodness me, yes, busy days, busy days. But, so the other day, I'll try and keep an eye on the clock. Yeah, the other day I was talking about this subject of food. Oh my goodness. Now, just to say right from the outset that I think the subject of food, I think it can become, I don't want it to be here, it can become a bit political, a bit divisive. Certainly my nose is going to itch a lot when I do this. I'm not allergic to lavender, I'm going to be itchy. Yeah, political, divisive, scaremongery, clickbaity, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's not what I want to do today. I want to be able to just chat about this subject, share some thoughts. And by the way, no, of course, I'm not perfect. I've never said I was, far from it. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the questions. I'm just going to share with you what I've been thinking about and experiencing in the last few days, and maybe some thoughts on, you know, things we might be able to do for ourselves. So with that in mind, it's quite possible that the things I say today you will disagree with. That's fine. We're not going to all agree all the time, are we? You know, we're different. If you want to share a different point of view, fine, absolutely fine. I've never had an issue with that. All I would say, and the vast majority of you do this anyway, but all I would say is, if you disagree and if you want to share a different point, let's just please do it gently and respectfully. It's perfectly okay to disagree. It's not okay to be rude or nasty to someone else. So, enough said. So let's dive in. I never script my videos, but every now and again I do scribble some notes and bullet points of things I want to remember to talk about. It may be that I go a bit round the houses. I might go off subject, prone to that, and then come back. So the first thing to talk about is media and the headlines at the moment. So I'm sure, and I know I know friends overseas have even seen it as well, that in recent days the media has been awash with stories of food shortages. Okay, well, the first thing to say is, as I would say about any, it's going everywhere, any news item is, just be wary of where you get your news from, and be wary of their angle. Let's always remember that, you know, the bigger, the scarier, the more fear-mongery, the more drama queeny a headline, the more papers they're going to sell, or the more clicks they're going to get. So, and the more papers they sell, the more clicks they get, the more money they make. So it's in the media's interest, in a way, to be overly dramatic, because that's how they make their money. So we just have to bear that in mind a little bit. I saw, and one of the reasons this has been so on my mind is I got really cross about this. I try not to get cross in life because it doesn't get us anywhere, does it? But, you know, it's an emotion and sometimes it needs to escape. I think it was Thursday last week, only a few days ago. It came up when I come out of my emails then default to MSN, the MSN news page. I've just flung Lavender on my sofa. That'd be me falling asleep reading my book this evening. Yeah, when I close my emails, it defaults to the MSN news page, and I try not to look at it because it's always a really over-the-top drama stuff. Literally, here's an example. Literally every day since mid-December, when we had the freeze in mid-December, literally every day I will see a headline on MSN warning me of a huge wall of snow heading towards London. It's like 2 months later, 2.5 months, I've been being told every day that I'm going to have a huge wall of snow hitting me. Where is it? So yeah, be careful what you read. But one day it was last week, it was the headline about these food shortages, and it was the Independent who, excuse me, until now I've always quite liked and respected. And it was a video piece from them. It's one of those videos where the words are typed, so it's kind of like you're reading headline and then the next whatever, but there's a moving image in the background. What it was, it was a camera panning down a supermarket aisle. The words were talking about there's no tomatoes, tomato shortage, shelves are bare, shelves are empty, doom, gloom, we're all going to die, you know. It was properly over dramatic. However, the shelves that were being shown weren't shelves in the produce section. It was one of those aisles, you always get them towards the back of the supermarket, don't you, where they sell fizzy pop, bottles of fizzy pop, soda, as you would say in the States. Over here, Coke, lemonade, that kind of thing. But it was the shelves where they've got those massive, absolutely socking great big 2-litre bottles. Now, they did exactly the same at the beginning of the pandemic, trying to scare us. The thing with those huge items is, let's say, in a busy hour on a Saturday morning, 40 people each go down that aisle and they each pick out a couple of bottles to put in their trolley and off they go. So let's say you sold 80 pieces over the course of an hour or two. You take out 80 bottles from those shelves and suddenly those shelves are empty purely because of the bulk of the item. You know, when we've got shelves with beans and tins and tomatoes, you can get loads more on the shelf. In other words, in a very short space of time, those shelves can become empty because of the bulk of the item. And that's the shelves that they were showing. They were showing us empty pop bottle shelves, not empty tomato shelves. So yeah, that's my first note, is let's just be wary about the media and where we're getting our news from, and also massively let's recognize when we're being whipped up, and let's say to ourselves, I'm not going to fall for it. You can try and be as doomy, gloomy, scaremongery as you want, but I'm just going to get on with my life. Now, let me just, so I saw that on the Thursday and I thought, this is probably one of those media things where they're trying to, they're whipping us up again. I'm going to go and do my own checking out. Because the problem with this media scaring frenzy thing is, I think it's natural human instinct. If you're told something's going to run out, you're not going to be able to get it, I think the instinct is to go out quickly, go and try and grab one. I mean, look, loo roll in the pandemic. If we're told there's going to be no loo roll, panic, quick, go out and buy loo roll, and go out and buy far more than you would normally buy, because in another week there's going to be none forever and ever and ever, amen. So, yeah. Saturday afternoon, after I'd done my little plot visit, on my way home, I thought I'm just going to go in to a few of my local shops and check out the situation. It must have been about 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon. Bear in mind that, a lot of people, it's kind of like a bit traditional almost, isn't it? Is that Saturday morning is the time for doing the big weekly shop. So by Saturday afternoon, shelves are emptying out a bit until that night when the shelf stackers come in and they get it all restocked for the next day. Anyway, so I went to 2 supermarkets and 2 independent shops. I went to Tesco's and I went to Sainsbury's. There are two of our main supermarkets. And then I went to my local greengrocer. That's what all he is. He's a greengrocer. Doesn't sell anything else other than fruit and veg. And I also went to my little Turkish market. All 4 of them had tomatoes. Now, in fairness, in the 2 supermarket cases, they were quite low on stock. But like I said, it's sort of Saturday afternoon. A lot of the shelves had gaps. The bread shelves are almost empty. That's kind of normal. Anyway, they did have gaps in terms of, say, the cheapy bags of your bog standard horrible watery salad type tomatoes, but they had cherry tomatoes. They had their kind of the finest range, like tomatoes on the vine still. So they both the supermarkets had tomatoes. My greengrocer had tomatoes. My Turkish market had tomatoes. The Turkish market had loads. So there are tomatoes out there. So that's the other thing, is if you go to the supermarket and they don't have any, don't just think in terms of a supermarket. Look at your local independent suppliers. Do you have a farmer's market? Do you have access? You might not necessarily in London, but if you live a bit further out, are you within reach of a farm that has its own farm shop? Just because something's not in the supermarkets doesn't mean you're not going to be able to get hold of it. Anyway, so I found tomatoes, no problem. Now, the other thing that occurred to me, this is going to go a little bit all over the place. Maybe I should have scripted for once. I want to talk about future-proofing ourselves. But I'm just going to stick with the tomatoes for a minute. Yeah, we'll stick with the tomatoes for a minute. When I first heard this news on Thursday, my first thought, honestly and truly, was, well, who's eating tomatoes in the middle of winter? Tomatoes are a summer, early autumn fruit. Who's eating tomatoes in the middle of winter? I didn't understand. I was like, oh. Apparently people do. Now back to the Turkish supermarket. They sell these big boxes, 5 kilo boxes. You can buy them loose on other shelves, different types. But they always sell these 5 kilo boxes. They're stacked up on the pavement, and they are. Oh, I didn't look at the price. I haven't looked at the price most recently, but they are usually $5.99 for 5 kilo box at the moment. Once we get into the summer, they will be £2.99 a kilo. Oh, that should ring bells with people. Why are we buying a summer fruit or summer vegetable in the middle of winter? Why are we expecting to be able to buy a summer fruit in the middle of winter? And in a way, that's kind of the crux of everything I sort of want to talk about today, is that maybe our expectations need adjusting. So rather than panicking about not being able to, oh, we're never going to have tomatoes again, is to just, is to change the way we think about what we eat, change the way we shop, change the way we cook more. You know, when tomatoes are £2.99 in the summer, how about buying a load of them in the summer and preserving them for the winter if you don't grow your own? I mean, if you're happy to pay £5.99 in the middle of winter, so be it. So in terms of sort of shortages, price increases, you know, there are multiple factors going on. A tomato in the middle of winter, excuse me, is either going to have to be imported from somewhere hotter or grown in this country but with artificial light and artificial warmth. That's going to cost a fortune. So that, hang on a sec, this noisy bit. So that, of course, a summer vegetable in the middle of winter is going to cost more money, whether it's homegrown or an import. There is a vast tomato glass house in the next village to where Auntie Teapot lived. And you can see it from miles away because it's very flat territory where she is. You can see it from miles away in winter because it's just this weird, massive glow on the horizon because it's lit up like a Christmas tree for hours and hours and hours because it's utterly unnatural to grow tomatoes in winter. So obviously fuel costs have gone up. I don't know figures specifically, but I understand that quite a lot of farmers have scaled production back because they can't afford to put the light on, they can't afford to put the heat on. So that's going to create a shortfall. And those that are being grown and are coming through are going to be more expensive. Everything has gone up, sort of fertilisers have gone up, animal feed has gone up. So because of all those costs have risen, of course our farmers are having to increase the cost that they're selling their product on for, otherwise they're not going to make any money. You know, none of this, let's not get into a blame game because, you know what, apportioning blame ain't going to change anything, it ain't going to help us. We really need to look after our farmers at the moment. They are massively struggling. So, and also it's, you know, it's for our own benefit and our own food security. Wherever we can, let's try and buy from our own farmers. And I don't mean that in a xenophobic way at all, but you know, if a British carrot costs, you know, a couple of pence per kilo more than carrots from wherever, I'm going to buy the British carrots because I want that farm to stay in business, because who knows what is going to happen down the line. You know, it's almost like we can think, I don't want to think in terms of World War II, but we're an island. We are very, very easy to cut off. If someone wants to cut us off, we can be cut off. And I'm not saying that as a scaremongery thing or as a doomy gloomy thing. And I realise that's kind of what I've just almost said. I don't mean it like that at all. What I mean is, let's support our farmers because they are struggling. If we can buy direct from them, brilliant. When we can't buy direct from them, when we're in the supermarket, let's look for our little British farm tractor, whatever the symbol is. Costs, keep our British farms going. Yes, so the other thing in terms of food security, get your name down on an allotment waiting list. If you've got allotments in your area or community gardens, have you got a bit of space in your own back garden? Have you got a bunch of gnarly, snarly roses which look ugly and you've never really tended? Rip them out, put veg in. This is the perfect time if you have got a back garden and you've never grown any veg before. This is the perfect time to now get out into your garden, get out with a tape measure and look at areas. Check, see which way your garden is facing in terms of the sun, and where you've got a west facing or a south facing bit of the garden, the bit of the garden that gets the most amount of sunshine each day. Brilliant. Think about putting in a couple of raised beds. Think about even having pots on your patio, on your, if you've got a deck or a patio. You can do tomatoes. Back to tomatoes, you can easily do tomatoes in pots. There are some varieties you can even do from hanging baskets. But yeah, think about growing a bit of your own as well, so that you aren't completely reliant on the supermarkets. Don't just rely on the supermarkets. There's so many other places we can eat from. But, okay, never mind all that, because that is all getting a bit doomy gloomy, isn't it? What can we do? Well, one of the biggest ways we can help ourselves, because when I was in those shops checking out the tomato situation, apparently tomatoes and lettuces, and that makes sense because they both need warmth and light, neither of which we can provide in the UK unless we heat and unless we light, as it were. So we're relying on overseas imports. So the huge thing I would suggest is that we all just start to think about eating seasonally again. Once upon a time, that's how we used to eat. Our grandparents would eat seasonally. They wouldn't, I presume, certainly with my grandparents, they wouldn't expect to go to a shop in the middle of winter and buy strawberries and tomatoes. That wouldn't even be on their shopping list because it's not normal. That's the thing, is like let's try and eat normally, naturally, if you like. So yeah, if you haven't thought about this for a while, go to the shops, have a look to see what is available. And all of our lovely winter produce that is there, all our lovely sort of root veg, those hearty veg, carrots, parsnips, turnips, swedes, all those things which make gorgeous additions in stews and soups, all of our lovely brassicas. So instead of reaching for a bag of lettuce that's going to go that horrible, soggy, watery in the bag in the bottom of the fridge, instead of reaching for lettuce, reach for one of the brassicas. And then in the summer, we'll be back to eating those lovely soft leaf things again, like the lettuces and tomatoes, because they'll be in season again. And by the middle of summer, we'll be thinking, I'm longing for a parsnip or a Brussels sprout. I can tell you this for a fact because it's my experience of how I eat. Right now, all through the winter, I start to fantasize about fresh tomatoes. I literally only eat fresh tomatoes from about the end of August to the end of September, or middle of August, depends how quickly they ripen. August and September, maybe a couple of months of the year. The rest of the year, I'm eating bottled tomatoes, stored tomatoes. So yeah, in the middle of winter, right now, I am fantasizing about a Greek salad. It's always my fantasy, because it's the cucumbers in the summer, the gorgeous, juicy, ripe, sun-kissed tomatoes. Sorry, I don't want to make any of you salivate. I fantasize about it. Now, by the end of the summer, by the end of sort of August, September, I'm really enjoying my Greek salads still, but I'm kind of starting to get a bit sick of them, and I'm fantasizing about parsnips and Brussels sprouts and roast potatoes, all those gorgeous roast veg that we associate with Christmas as well. So I think eating seasonally helps me to appreciate what I eat more as well. And like the example I gave you with the with my Turkish market, seasonal produce, the right seasonal produce is invariably cheaper. $5.99 for 5 kilos of tomatoes, or $2.99. It's half the price when it's properly in season. So yeah, let's maybe think about just that one simple change we can make of saying what's in season and only eat what's in season, and don't expect to eat fresh tomatoes and fresh strawberries in winter. And I think not only will that stop us being disappointed that we can't get them, but also that should mean that our shopping actually gets a bit cheaper. For instance, I mean, I've never seen it, but I don't know how they do it. I'm just trying to imagine something like a parsnip or a Brussels sprout in the middle of summer, how much that would cost. Because it would have to come from like down under to the side of the world, wouldn't it? Because it's a cold, yeah. Have you ever seen a Brussels sprout out of season? Okay, let's not digress too much. So that's that. So yeah, let's start thinking seasonally. Now waste is another thing, and I'm sure you guys don't, but let's just mention it anyway. I'm mentioning that bag of salad in the bottom of the fridge that invariably turns to slime. I've done it myself. You know, that's what I say. I'm not perfect. I'm not preaching because I'm perfect. I ain't. But yeah, food waste in the UK apparently is still a huge issue. That, you know, we get to the end of the week and we're chucking stuff out because it's going off. So one of the biggest and best things you can do for yourself in terms of cost and efficiency is plan a week of meals. Or if planning for a whole week, if you can't kind of cope with that much in one go, plan for 4 days. Do a 4-day plan. Breakfast, lunch, supper, and if you like to snack, plan in snacks as well. Make your plan. Work out exactly, so if you're using a recipe, you're using a recipe book, work out exactly how much you need to buy. You know, with things like veg, so often in the supermarkets, we see things bagged up. It's a whole bag of something, isn't it? And maybe, especially if you live on your own, and I know there's loads of you who either live on your own or live with a partner, you've got kids who've grown up and who've flown the nest, you haven't started having kids yet, whatever it is. Especially if you're on your own, you know, a kilo sack of carrots, you might think, there's no way I'm going to get through those. Step away from the supermarket, go to your independent greengrocer where they sell them loose. So make your meal plan. Sorry, excuse me, it's the lavender itch. Make your meal plan and buy exactly what you need. No more, no less. Then you won't have any waste. Also, you won't have any plastic waste, which is, yay, Bertie bonus. So yeah, plan what you're going to have and write your shopping list and be really strict with yourself with that shopping list. Do not, just don't put the blinkers on, don't be tempted. You've made your plan, you know exactly what you need for your food for that week. Why are you going to stray into that aisle or the t'other aisle or what have you? And you know what, so much of this, of whether you want to call it frugal or just mindful consuming, whatever, sort of spending less. I don't mean spending less. That's what I was saying the other day about the radio broadcast I heard about that in the UK we just don't want to be spending money on food. We want it cheap. And we've had food cheap for a long time. But for example, when I was a kid, a whole chicken, a chicken was a luxury. We would have chicken as a Sunday roast. That would do for all of us, and then there'd be bits of leftover that would make soup, stock, whatever, so there'd be another meal out of the chicken during the week. These days it seems that people are eating chicken every single day. I saw that on the TV recently as well. I think it was one of those food investigation programs. I can't remember what it's called. Kate Quinlan, I think, is one of the presenters. Sorry, can't remember anything else. But yeah, we are, you know, what was once a luxury, we're now having every single day. So maybe we need to kind of, this is what I mean about changing our mindset, is just turn back the clock a little bit, go a little bit more basic. Have those luxuries, have that whole chicken on a Sunday with the family and really enjoy it. I know you're going to think that's weird, she's talking about chicken, she's a vegetarian. I know, I am, I'm just trying to speak in terms everyone will get. But yeah, have it on a Sunday, really enjoy it, and enjoy it because it's a luxury, in the same way that I will enjoy a fresh tomato in August because I haven't had one for 10 months. Let's start to put more value on our food. Let's stop. Yeah, we don't want to spend too much money because we're being frugal. But that doesn't necessarily mean buying cheap food. I think actually it's the reverse. It's about buying good quality ingredients and using them well. Using the really expensive stuff sparingly, so your meat as a source of protein. But let's buy the best quality veg we can. And fundamentally, when you're doing your shopping and you've got your shopping list because you've done your weekly plan and you're going to stick to it, try this. This is another thing you can try for 1 week only, if you don't already. I know, I've got a feeling I'm not preaching, but you know what I mean. As a figure of speech, I'm preaching to the converted because I think you're all pretty sassy about and smart about this anyway. But if you're not, try and have a week where you say, I'm crumpling my bags. I'm not going to eat any processed food at all. Apart from the process of putting something in a tin, such as, I'm not talking about soup, but tinned beans, tinned lentils, you know, our tinned protein, if you like. But yeah, everything else that's processed, walk away from it for a week, see how you get on. Because of course, all processed food, because it's been processed, part of the price that we're paying is for someone else to have done the cooking. So if it's a pasta sauce, don't buy ready-made pasta sauce, make your own. Don't buy ready-made soup, make your own. Because why are we wanting to pay for someone else to do our cooking? We need to do it ourselves. Hang on a sec. Another pour. Oh! See, because there is a little bit of dust coming off. Did you see that? Maybe that's what tickles me nose. Where do we get to? Back to basics, yeah. So ditch the processed foods. The best way, probably realistically the only way to manage financially better with food at the moment, is just to do all your own cooking. You know, I showed it with that soup video, because even, you know, what did I say the Heinz has gone up to here? £1.85, but never mind that. The cheapest one in Lidl, I think, was 50 pence when I looked in January. Don't know if it's gone up, haven't looked again. And I made that the equivalent amount, 400 gram tin, for 20 pence with shop bought vegetables. So that wasn't my own vegetables, because I'm now a failure when it comes to carrots. I'm going to try again this year, one last try. But yeah, 20 pence a portion with all shop bought ingredients. I mean, if it was allotment ingredients, it would have been more like 10p. But so that's a clear demonstration of how cost effective, how much cheaper it is to make your own than to buy it. But look, back to this kind of seasonal eating. When things are in season, they are cheaper. Think of those things, all those really basic foods that we have at the moment that are cheaper. So the carrots, we might see the last of the parsnips at the moment, but what else? The turnips, the Swedes, all the different brassicas. You know, you might think, oh, yeah, but I don't like any, you know, imagine having a plate of, there's your swede, there's your turnip. No, mix it up and do stuff to them. They are great things to bulk out your meals, such as whether it's soups or winter stews that stick to your ribs, or, you know, curries. I love veg curries. You can put literally anything into a veg curry. Your casseroles, or you know the kind of stuff I'm talking about. All this hearty winter one pot cooking, yum yum yum. Bulk them out with those really cheap not really cheap, but those cheaper seasonal veg. Ignore the out of season veg. As far as protein goes, you know, protein historically has always been the more expensive thing, hasn't it? But again, beans are still more economical than a meat source of protein. So maybe think about having, if you are still a meat eater, you know, a couple of nights a week, maybe even sort of 3 or 4 meals a week that are meat free, or not necessarily meat free, but meat reduced. So for instance, if you make a chili, how about you use half your animal mince and half soya mince instead? Chuck extra beans in there. That's a really economical way. I think it's that thing of bulking our meals out with the cheaper produce because it's in season, or the cheaper versions of protein. I prefer TVP, as us old hippie veggies call it, textured vegetable protein. Yes, it's processed. It's the one processed thing I allow. It's basically a soya protein. Looks like mince, animal mince, but it's not. It's vegetarian. Then corn came on the market, and corn is really convenient. Of course it is. But it's a much, much more processed product, and because of that, it's more expensive. Every process something goes through adds to the expense. So the least processing a food item has, you know, it makes sense that brings the price down. Hence, you know, a raw vegetable is going to be cheaper than, you know, a jar of cooked soup on the shelf. You get the gist. I think, so yeah, like, let's say in a nutshell, what can we do? What can we do to help ourselves in terms of shortages, costs? Make a meal plan. Stick to it. Make that a shopping list. Stick to it. There is a however in that. If you do this for the first time this coming weekend, you might do your meal plan. You might get to the supermarket and you find, there aren't any tomatoes. Let's say there are no tomatoes next weekend. Use a tin of tomatoes. You'll start to get a gist of what is available seasonally. Become a seasonal eater. Okay, 2 things. Sorry, I should have bullet pointed better, shouldn't I? Eat seasonally. Do all your own cooking. Avoid processed foods because you're paying for someone else to do the cooking for you. Make a meal plan. Make a shopping list. Stick to it. Avoid food waste. Those few things will help enormously. And I know people are going to say, but I'm too busy to cook, you know, I work full time, I've got kids, Listen, I get it. I have worked full time in the past. I work full time now. I work more than full time now, just a different kind of work. But we need to prioritise. Surely the one thing in our budgeting and in our time, both in terms of time and money, what do we prioritise? We prioritise the roof over our head. We prioritise keeping the lights on. Surely we should be prioritising food and eating. When you come home from work in the evening, what do you normally do? Because presumably, I'm not talking about shift workers. So I used to get home at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when I was nursing. I'm not talking about that. But if you're getting home from work at 6:37 at night, yes, you do have time to cook. Of course you do. Look at 30-minute recipes. There's tons online. There's tons. Just Google 15-minute cook recipes or 30-minute cook recipes. Batch cook at the weekend, so you spend a few hours on a Sunday in your kitchen doing a load of cooking, stuff for the fridge, stuff for the freezer, stuff for the week. Let's make time to cook and eat well. And also, it's back to this thing I was saying about how apparently us Brits spend the smallest proportion of our income on food than, we look at our French cousins, they spend twice as much of their income on food as we do. So maybe our priorities there need to change as well. And instead of skimping on food and buying cheap processed food, because we're saving for a holiday, maybe we say, hang on a minute, surely the most important thing is the food that I put into my body. See, that's what I mean. It's a huge subject, isn't it? Because it's not just about, I'm not even going to go there and talk about the nutritional quality of what we eat. I don't care about that today. Do what you want, I don't care. And I don't want any of you to care about what I do. But just in terms of these shortages, let's switch our attitude and recognise that seasonal food may be the way to go. You know what? I think every now and again it's great, it's fun, make a bit of time for this as well, to go to the library maybe. When was the last time you went to the library? Grab a load of cookbooks off the shelf and have a look at some new recipes and think, oh, actually, that is all seasonal produce. And if you see a recipe and there's something in there that's not quite in season, what could you substitute? I come back again and again to Jack Monroe's recipes. If you don't know her, Google her, Jack Monroe. Jack, she's a woman, but it's Jack, as in Jack and Jill. Monroe is Monroe. Her first book was called, there are two books I know of, A Girl Called Jack and Cooking on a Bootstrap. And they're both her ultra sort of low cost cookbooks. My beet burgers were a Jack recipe. So again, it's back to that thing I was saying about steer clear of the processed food and make your own. Those beet burgers, I'm growing extra beetroots this year because those beet burgers were so good. They cost pennies. Whereas if I went to either the chiller cabinet or they're mostly in the frozen section and went and bought frozen veggie burgers, all sorts of brands do them now, but the whole Linda McCartney stuff. I reckon those beet burgers were a quarter, if not better, a quarter of the price of the ready-made, the processed ones in the supermarket. So give it a go. Look through some recipe books, have fun experimenting. Have a look for things which are quick to cook if it's for midweek and you're going to be cooking when you come home from work. Have a look at things which are simple one-pot things you could cook, maybe as in you can do a massive batch in like a big pot, so you've got a few for the week and a few for the freezer. All of my videos, I'm just trying to think, I think pretty much everything I've cooked in my recipes, they're all things which I freeze and enjoy out of the freezer again. They're all things I cook for four, basically. So if you are a family of four, one of my recipes will do you for one meal. Double it up. Also think about how you can cook one night and then make it into something the next night. So cooking something like a spaghetti bolognese, and then the next day you add chilli to it and a ton of kidney beans, and voila, next night you've got a chili, in my case, sans carne. Yeah. shake it up, try different things, try something new, and let's just all wind the clock back a bit and kind of go back to basics and think about how our grandparents cooked, except we would probably use a bit more spice than any of them used. So yeah, crack on with the curry. I think I probably better stop talking on that subject now, haven't I? It's yeah, I think I think we're living, it's been an odd time, hasn't it? You know, with the last 3 years have been quite challenging, but I hope what the last 3 years has done for most of us is taught us that, you know, we can think outside the box, we can think differently, we can do things differently, and we get on with our lives and get on with what we need to do, and we do all right. Definitely hope that those of you who don't already grow a bit of your own, I sincerely hope you will have a go this year. If ever there was a year to have a go at growing your own food, it's this year, when the media are telling us that we're all going to starve, which we're not. We'll be okay. But yeah, have a go. Because I'm going to be growing so differently this year, just because of giving up the garden. That in my garden playlist, if you go back to this time last year, if you basically follow what I did last year, if you've never done it before, you'll get some good ideas, good hints, tips. With most of what I've grown in the garden, you will see videos right from the beginning of me starting the seeds, through potting on, getting things to the garden, for talking about hardening off. You'll see me planting things, you'll see me tending them throughout the year, giving them care, sometimes if they've had a bit of pest attack, etc., etc. So there's a whole archive. The whole of last year's garden videos is there in the archive. If you're brand new to gardening, or if after this video you're now thinking, maybe I will try and grow something myself, just go back and check those videos. You should hopefully find, stretchy legs, all the answers to the questions you might have. But in any case, good old Google. Everything's on Google these days, isn't it? How do I? You get your answer. You know what? Let's keep being positive, optimistic people. And I truly did not want any of that to be neggy, scary, scaremongery stuff, because that's just not how my mind works. I hope that's some practical ideas, and even if that a particular idea doesn't work for you, hopefully that will ping around in your brain and give you an idea that does work for you. That's so often how I have ideas. I hear something, on the radio, on the news or whatever, and I might kind of disagree with it or whatever, but I might end up thinking about it for days, and then my own solution comes up. Right, I've done about a third of the lavender bags, so I shall carry on now. Such a joy, they're such a joy to do. I can't wait to show, isn't this a cute one? Look, this is little daisies in gingham, and it's like quite subtle on that side, and then really bright gingham on the other side. Cheerful. It's all about the cheer. And I think I've got 2 with this fabric. I'll show you. I had the tiniest, but I've loved this fabric. To show it upside down, because how can I seal it at the bottom? It was the very last I had of the lovely bicycle with the bird in the basket. That gorgeous bicycle fabric. I only had a small amount of it to start with. And I think it ended up being, 2 bunting pennants, and then the rest were just, there's 2 lavender bags with the bicycles. But lovely. This is what we need. See, this is what we need today, isn't it? Look, cheerful colours. Isn't that pretty? Yay! Right, people. Up and at 'em, as my grandparents would say. Yeah. Have fun in the kitchen. That's the main thing, isn't it? Have fun in the kitchen. Experiment. Teach yourself some new dishes. And have those. I'm a bit fussy about little tiny bits of thread hanging on the bags, and have those luxuries and those treats still, but have them infrequently, because then they are a luxury and a treat. And if they're infrequent, then hopefully you can afford them, because the rest of the time you'll be spending a bit less, because you'll be buying basics and doing it yourself. Yeah, have fun with it all. All right, lovelies, I think garden next time, maybe. I don't know, the weather's really... It's not bad. The weather's not bad at the moment. It's just a bit unpredictable, because right now it looks like it's going to hammer down. The weather forecast said it was going to rain today, but so far none. We'll see. Fingers crossed for a rain-free day and some garden time next time. Whatever. Until then, please look after yourselves. Look after your tummies. Happy shaking things up a little bit in the kitchen with, how you shop, how you cook, how you eat. Have fun with it. Until the next one, cheerio.